Hi there, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Phoenix Phenomenon. My name is Roxanne McCarty-O'Kane. I'm your host. I have the absolute honour of introducing you all to Kellie Harriden today. Now, Kellie is an author, mother of two, wife, absolutely passionate advocate for sharing her journey to becoming the mum of her two precious babies, who are not babies anymore, but they were always babies in a mother's eye. And she was the author of The Long-Awaited Child. I have the first edition here. Kellie's just released the second edition, which she'll be able to give you a preview of in a moment. So thank you so much for joining us today, Kellie. It's lovely to have you on.
Hi, Roxanne, and thank you for having me.
Excellent. Thanks for being here. So being an author, I'm always excited to have a chat to people who have taken the time to channel their journey and to share it with the world. So I'd love for you to share part of your journey. It has been a long journey, actually, to motherhood and the inspiration for the book that you've created. If you'd love to share that with our readers.
Yeah, sure. So with our journey to motherhood, my journey to motherhood, it was an 8-year journey. I, like most other, females, that just thought I would fall pregnant naturally and quite quickly. It was something that I just assumed would happen. However, that was not going to be the plan for us. It was, like I said, an 8-year journey. So went down lots of different paths and lots of different avenues over the 8 years, even packed up at one stage and moved across the country just to get away from our life as we knew it at the time. But yeah, as you said, 8 years later, we were blessed with twins.
Excellent. That's great. And I'd love for you to share some of, I know you've channeled your absolute soul into your book, and people can purchase that and read the journey in full. But yeah, tell me and our watchers a bit more about what the emotional toll, the financial toll, all of these things were like for you over that 8-year period.
Yeah, sure. It was a really emotional time. I honestly feel like when I look back at that time, I spent all my 30s trying to have a baby. So, it was it really consumes your life. I didn't know anyone else who had been through what we were going through at that time. So I felt really lonely, and which is why I'm really had that desire to write my book and share my journey with others, just to give them that hope and also know that others have been where they are, and that just is really comforting.
Absolutely. And your first edition has been out for 18 months?
12 months. About 12 months, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And tell me, have you had a lot of other women coming and connecting with you and finding comfort in reading your story? Maybe they see themselves and have experienced some of the same things.
Very much so. I've had comments such as, that they found it inspiring, it was heartfelt, they were close to giving up themselves, and just knowing that, maybe look into other options, don't just count on maybe IVF, which so many people do. And I understand that is a great sort of first step, but if that doesn't necessarily work for you, I think it's really good for people to hear that other stories work in, where people have had success and gone on to have a really wonderful family in other ways. So it was really a big drive for me to write my book, to share that part of my story, because for my partner Ian and I, we did, years and years of IVF and many cycles. Got to the point where there was no actual reason why I wasn't falling pregnant. So we then decided to look into other options such as adoption. We even looked into foster care, went along to seminars, we applied for adoption, we then looked into donor options and also onto international surrogacy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, none of those are small feats by any stretch of the imagination. It would have been like, did you feel like you were in a bit of a minefield at some stages trying to find your way around these different avenues of having a child?
Yeah, I'm really lucky that Ian is wonderful with researching.
Oh, awesome.
It's not really my forte, and it's not really yeah, something that I have a lot of patience for, but he's really good. And so he would get on and research other things. He was always very good with coming along to seminars. So I never went into anything alone. I think as a couple, you need to do this together. It is just not the female's responsibility. It's really important that you go on this journey together. Mm-hmm. And, and there are definitely times where, it's a bit of a roller coaster and you have your up and downs. And at times I felt like I was the stronger person than Ian, or at times if I, say I'd got a negative pregnancy test, then he would step up and be that stronger person in the relationship. So I think that's really important to do that together.
Yeah, oh, that's really beautiful. He's definitely a keeper, isn't he?
Oh, he has his moments.
He'll keeping it real. I love it. Awesome. And I guess for you, 8 years is a long time to persist with something as emotional, like you said, as starting a family. Were there any moments where you felt you wanted to give up, or what was it that kept you driven for that long?
I just, but like to answer your question, many times that we felt like giving up, and I thought, what am I doing to us? It was all costing a lot of money. Mm-hmm. We had really stepped away from having a social life as much as we used to, because everything was costing money. And you go through those moments where you go, I could be pregnant, am I taking medications? And so you really sort of become quite reserved and just, hone in on your own family life or home life at that time. So, we did, we had a lot of emotions going through it. But for me, it was just, there was no option for me. I just went, this is going to happen. There was no option that it was not going to happen. I was going to make it happen no matter what. Yeah. And I just had that little bit of determination in me to keep on going and be very open-minded. Like the way that we had our children was never the way I thought I would have my babies. So, you have to be open-minded if you really want it to happen. Look into other options and just really go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And are you comfortable with sharing with our watchers how it was that your beautiful children, Daya and Bane, came into your life?
Yeah, I am definitely. So we did use a surrogate internationally, and we also used a donor egg. So that was really a big thing for me. Like never in my life would I have thought that my children would not be biologically mine. They are biologically Ian's, or that I wouldn't carry them. So that was something that I really had to come to terms with. And, to be honest with you, Roxanne, something that I still have moments where, even though I wouldn't change anything for the world, I love those two kids more than anything. But, I still have moments where it does still pull at my heartstrings a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what was it like going through the process of, finalising that was the avenue that you were going to take to make this dream a reality?
Yeah, because of each time we did IVF, when they did an egg retrieval, they wouldn't get a large number of eggs, and then when they did, they wouldn't grow to embryo stage. And when we did a transfer of the embryo, we only really had 1 or 2 eggs to transfer. There was nothing to freeze, nothing to try at a later stage. So each time an IVF cycle failed for us, we had to start right back at the beginning.
Wow.
To go through all the hormone injections and everything, and all the expenses as well, and the egg retrieval to go through that step. So when we decided to look into surrogacy, it was, we may only have one chance at this.
Yeah.
It was international. It was a lot of money. So we had to go, what is our best option? And because of that whole not being able to get a large quantity of eggs and also quality, we had to consider egg donor. And, something that I did make the decision to do, but I also at the time, probably a good thing in some ways, I had to make it quite quickly, that decision.
Yeah.
So that probably was a good thing. And then I just went, right, we've made that decision, and I accepted it and then moved on and went through the next steps. And we were very blessed that the first try for our surrogate to fall pregnant, she fell pregnant.
Oh, that's amazing. amazing.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine how you must have been feeling. I'm guessing communication was over the phone to find out what was happening, or?
No, it was actually via email.
Oh, geez.
So,
Okay.
I do mention this in my book because, you know, it was one of those moments in your life that you really wish you could go back and relive. I was at work. We knew that we were going to get the result from our clinic that day. I was at work. I saw the email come through. I wasn't brave enough to open it at work because, you know, what if it was a negative result? That would have been, quite upsetting at work. And then also on the other side, what if it was a positive? I wanted to share that moment with Ian, who happened to be home at that time. So, you know, I left work a little bit early that day and jumped in my car and flew home like a racing car driver, and actually got him to open it because I just couldn't even look, you know. And just, people say it's one of the really emotional moments in my book because, you know, they can just really feel what we went through at that moment. So, and when I wrote my book, I literally, my mentor at the time said to me, Kelly, just write from your heart. And that's exactly what I did.
Yeah, no, it definitely comes across that way. I think I was welling up at the chapter where you finally get to hold your children. I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I was literally crying. You wrote absolutely beautifully. So
thank you. That means a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, that's okay. Perfect. And so, yeah, I mean, to get that positive news, I mean, you must have been buzzing.
Yeah, it was really really surreal a little bit, but also really like, yep, this is awesome. You know, we were going from just being the two of us to knowing that all those years we'd gone through everything, and we're at that point where, you know, our surrogate was pregnant. And even though she was in another country, it was such a beautiful moment contacting our family and friends who were aware of what we had been through up until that point.
Yeah.
It was really very special.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another side of your journey too as well. You've mentioned, you know, not knowing anyone who was in the same boat as yourself made it a very isolating experience. Did you find that the family and or friends that you reached out to, I guess they probably wouldn't have been able to comprehend what was going on to you emotionally throughout that whole process?
Yeah, it was probably really hard for them, and I think it's really important when you're going through something like that. I mentioned to say, like, to find your tribe. Sometimes it isn't who you think it may be.
Yeah.
And, you know, I found that in a very small group of people. I was really had my parents' support, and same with Ian's, and also had a couple of very close friends that were there the whole way through that journey, even though they hadn't been there before themselves. Yeah. Just to even have them there and know that I could cry, there was no judgment. They could hear my stories 10 times over, there was no judgment. And that's sort of what you need.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. And I guess, you know, having all of this happening in another country, were you ever able to go and visit the surrogate, or was there a lot of definite separation there?
Yeah, there was definite separation. We didn't even, the first time our surrogacy journey was through India. The first time we went to India, we didn't even meet our surrogate at that time. We only met her at the end. Even though we had no connection with her one-on-one, I still felt really close to her. It's just such a strange feeling. I would send little gifts over to her as well. And it wasn't until after our babies were born that we had a moment, which I think is probably the most emotional moment of our whole 8-year journey, was when we said our thank yous to her and said our goodbyes. Like, even when I was writing my book, I was really emotional putting those words down, because here's one lady in another country giving just us everything, and, you know, you can only do so much for thank you, and I just want to give her the whole world.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. And so I can see you getting emotional now. You're going to make me cry.
Sorry,
yeah. Don't apologize. It's really beautiful. So yeah, take us to that moment where you actually got to hold Daya and Bane in your arms. Like, that would have been the most surreal thing in the world.
Yeah. So after they were born, we're actually in Australia still when they were born.
Yeah.
So we flew over to India because they did come at 33 weeks, so they did come a little earlier than planned. And, you know, flew to India as soon as we could. There was a little bit of paperwork to complete beforehand. I put all this in my book because I wanted to help others that may be going through that journey and with the research and everything. So when we got there, went to the hospital the next morning. We're standing there at these doors, the glass windows, looking through and seeing these two little babies in the same crib. Now, there's quite a few babies in that room, but there was just two in the crib together, and we're like, oh, I wonder if they could be ours. Couldn't see them clearly, even though we had received photos of them. Yeah. And then the nurse came in and got us and took us over to that crib and sure that they were our little babies who we've named Bane and Daya. Yeah, it was a beautiful moment. I held Bane first, Ian, daddies and their little girls. He held Daya first, and it was just beautiful. It's just instant love. I never got to fall pregnant and have a child naturally, so I never got to experience that. And even though I didn't, I still had that same emotion of, you hold them for the first time and you have that instant connection and instant love.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Excellent. So tell me about Bane and Daya. How what sort of characters are they now? How old are they now?
They're 6 years old now. They're awesome kids. Yeah. And the reason I didn't write my book and share my story up until now was I really struggled with a lot of probably insecurities of my own, feeling that I was being judged and it was all my own insecurities. There was no one actually doing anything. It was just a real struggle for me to share my story. Now I look at it as though it has been my purpose to go through that and now help others. I look at it a lot differently than I did, say even 4 years ago. And now I'm actually really proud of our story and I wouldn't change it for the world. So they are 6 years old. They are great kids. Bane's 1 minute older. He keeps telling us now. Yeah. So he's a really gentle soul. He's got such a beautiful soul, always happy, and I'm always getting comments from teachers and friends on what a happy little boy he is. Just loves everyone and everything in the world. Daya's really a lot more outgoing and a lot more vocal and funny though, but she's really, really funny. So I'm really proud of both of them. I'm trying to, teach them to grow up to be kind to everyone. And I'm really proud of them.
Excellent. All right. And so what was the catalyst for you to decide to write a book and to be open and vulnerable and share your story? Because like you mentioned, it's a huge thing. You're basically reliving, aren't you, as you're putting metaphorical pen to paper. We don't do that anymore. But as you're creating your manuscript, you're really taking yourself back there to those moments, and it takes a lot of bravery to take that step. So congratulations first of all for doing that, not once but twice. And I'd love for you to share what was the catalyst that drove you to, or that inspired you to take that action?
I just, even before the babies were born, I always felt like I needed to do something with my story. It is a really, I find it an amazing story, and there's not many stories like it. And so I really felt like I had to do something with it. Once they came along, life was busy. We'd actually packed up during our 8 years and moved to Perth. So we were living on the Sunshine Coast at the time. I just needed to get away from our life as we knew it, trying to fall pregnant where everything was revolving around that. So packed up and moved to Perth. After they were born, we had 12 months in Perth, but then we moved back to Queensland. We wanted to be, around family, and we felt like everything we'd been through, our parents deserved to have their grandchildren around them. So everyone was so pleased for us when we finally had them. So we felt like that, they all deserved to share, their lives. So, we had a really busy first couple of years. We built our home, our family home back on the Sunshine Coast. So, it was busy, but I always had this in the back of my mind. And then it was last year that I went, I need to do this year. And I just started writing. I got a mentor and just got on with it. And it was a journey to write, because there would be times that I would literally be sitting at my computer just with tears streaming down my face, and I'd have to just get up and do some housework or something to just try and get myself together. And so it was probably good for me in some ways to put it all down, and also it was then that the story was out in the open. So I had nothing to go, right, I'm going to hide that part of our story, or no one needs to know. If anyone wanted to read our story, they could. So that was, all the insecurities, they hung around for a little while, but now they've all gone, and I go, this is my story and I'm proud of it. And we couldn't love our children anymore.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And so when you sat down to write, how long did you take to get to first draft stage? Because I know that can be the toughest road for a first-time author.
Yeah, I think it was around about 6 months.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, people say to me, oh, gee, you wrote that really quickly. But it's not like I was writing a fiction book, and to me my story was already written for me. It was all in my head. I just needed to, as you say, put pen to paper. So it was all there, and I struggled initially, but as soon as my mentor said to me, Kelly, write from your heart, I was just off, and I was writing.
Yeah. Sometimes you almost need permission, don't you, to just be who you are. Yeah.
That's so true, yeah. And I think I tried to, make it a bit more of a book than I was trying to make it into something that it wasn't. I just needed to go, this is my story. I'm telling you from the heart. I've got a lot of research in there as well. But if anyone wants to be inspired by our story, learn other ways, then this is it. And also in the book, and the afterword was written by my mum, which I'm told is a very emotional part of my book as well.
Yeah.
To have her write that. That was her watching us go through those years and right up to the relationship she now has with her grandchildren. So, I'm really proud of that part as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And how did that come about? Did you ask her, or did she feel compelled to, I guess, contribute something to your book?
I think I asked her, but then she already had it in her mind. I remember we had some sort of conversation where I asked her, and she's like, I was going to ask you if I could. So it was kind of like we were already on that same page. Didn't actually know what she was going to write at the stage. We just knew that she wanted to write something. Yeah. And to put it as the afterword has just been perfect. And it's been really well received from others, because so many go through these journeys and they don't know what it's like, how to react to your daughter or your sister or your friend that may be going through this. So for Mum to share all her emotions and what she did, which was really just to be there and support us.
Yeah.
And she was also quite amazed that we just kept on going. She said, there was just at one stage she wrote, there's just no stopping these two. They were going to have a baby no matter what. And, I think that's comforting for others that may be in that position.
Absolutely. And what was it like for you to read that for the first time?
It was because she just wrote the same from her heart. Yeah. And, it was quite emotional as well. And there's things that, I didn't know that she felt or was going through. There was times that she did little things, and like one example was when they were away on a cruise, and she put a secret note into this Wailing Wall in Jerusalem, a prayer note that you could do, and she did little things like that, and they're little things that I didn't really know that she'd done. So it was a little bit eye-opening for me as well, of what someone else goes through watching their daughter struggle.
Yeah. It's a whole other perspective, isn't it?
It is, 100%.
Excellent. And so you mentioned to me earlier that the reason for doing a second edition, or releasing another edition this year, on the 31st of October, by the way, or is it the 1st of November you're releasing?
Well, I'm actually launching the book tonight.
Excellent. Okay, yes, which will be a week later by the time we go live. So this is version 2, isn't it?
Yep. So this is the new cover. I'm actually really loving it and really proud of it. I loved the cover previously, but now I'm just like, I love this as well. So being launched tonight at the Sunshine Coast Fertility Expo, which is an event that I've put on, and we'll also be doing again next year.
Absolutely. And that's just an extension of your desire to help other people on this journey, you know, with education, feeling that connectedness, that support there for them as well. It's really beautiful that you're expanding outside of the book now to create that for other people. So,
yeah, thank you. I've had some amazing opportunities to speak on radio and at events about my story, and it sort of has all come from there. I'm not the expert that, you know, knows all these IVF procedures or all the rules, you know, for surrogacy in different countries in the world. However, I just want to be that person that's gathering all this information. And also tonight when I speak at that launch, I just want people to connect and know, you know, someone else has been there, come out the other side and has a beautiful little family. And if it can happen for us, then, you know, it can happen for them also.
Yeah, absolutely. And pulling together an expo is no mean feat. There would have been a lot of blood, sweat and tears going into that, I imagine.
Yes, definitely all those things, including a few tears, I think, last week. But tonight, I'm just now at the point where it's all planned. Everything's in place. I am really, really proud of what I've put together. And it went from being a launch for my book to going, you know, I want it to be more. I want to help people more. And it's gone into this expo, which, you know, I've had so much feedback, positive feedback from businesses who work in that fertility field. And so I've gone, right, this is going to be now an annual event for the Sunshine Coast. Yeah. As soon as, you know, this evening's over and I've recovered a little bit, I will be going straight back in and planning the steps for the same event next year, even bigger.
Excellent. No, that's incredible. And I mean, it's placing you at the Coalface too. I know a lot of people would have been reaching out to you through your author's website, which is kellyharriden.com. No, just .com.
Just .com, yeah.
kellyharriden.com. I'll put a link below anyway so people can click straight through. You know, people connecting with you online, but it's a whole other kettle of fish when you're in a room with all these couples and families that are trying to make this a reality for themselves as well.
Yeah, and you know, it was a bit like when you are that person going through those struggles, you know, I didn't know how it was going to be received because I know myself. I kept very reserved and very hidden, didn't let a lot of people know what I was going through. However, at the same time, if there had been an event like this, I definitely would have gone to it. You know, you're going to be in a room with a lot of other people who are going through the same struggles. There's some awesome businesses there tonight, you know, just to help you through your journey, maybe help you look at other options. So I'm actually really, really pleased with the businesses. I have no two businesses are the same. So there's lots of different options for people. And I just want it to be a real comfortable, nurturing, safe space for everyone.
Absolutely. And are you comfortable with sharing, I guess now you've had, you know, the power of hindsight's always amazing. But what was it that I guess kept you feeling like you couldn't open up about your journey while you were going through it? Was it the fear of judgment, or was there something else going on for you as well?
I was embarrassed, which I know people say that is a crazy emotion to be feeling, but I was embarrassed that this was actually happening to me. My friends around me were falling pregnant. You know, we're at that age group where, you know, a lot of pregnancy announcements were made, and my sisters were having babies. So, I look back now and go, that was really silly emotion. But at the same time, I don't go, if I could go back, I don't know if I would be any different.
Yeah, of course.
Or have that shame that my body was not doing what it was designed to do so naturally. And I was that person, you know, 1 in 6 that are going through struggles. So, and something that I just never in a million years thought that it would be me. So, you know, I can't really say that I would be different. All I can do now is that help those that may be going through those struggles to feel comfortable knowing that they're not alone. Others have gone on to have their babies. I just want to inspire people. I just want them to keep on going, have a break. Also, you know, have a break during the time if you need to. Ian and I had a break. We were just so over everything. We packed up our house and moved to the other side of the country. That is having a break. And we took our time driving over and really made a holiday of it and reconnected as a couple. So, do what you need to do for yourself to get through that time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, having Ian in your corner, like he sounds like he was a very solid rock throughout this whole journey for you. I guess, did you do any other work for yourself, I guess, personally to help you get through, this all on a mental level as well?
Yeah, I didn't actually seek any counselling. I always felt like I was on top of it.
Right.
I said, no, I'm okay. My emotions were a bit of a roller coaster at times. I could be probably a little bit precious and emotional, more than maybe I would have normally been.
Yeah.
So I didn't actually seek any counselling, but I think now especially the last few years, so many people have come out with their stories and it's a lot more accepted than what it used to be. There was a real stigma around it. There still is a stigma around infertility. But, by more people talking about it, more people sharing their journeys, more events like what I'm holding tonight with the Fertility Expo, it's hopefully going to remove that stigma and people are going to feel a lot more comfortable, with their own journey and getting through it. And for me, I looked into other options at the time. I looked into herbs. I looked into acupuncture. So these are all things that I've got tonight as well for people to consider. And I don't want what did or didn't work for me to mean that that's going to necessarily work for you.
Of course.
And same in my book, like with IVF. IVF didn't work for me, but I do share a story of another lady who IVF worked for her. Same with adoption, wasn't for us. However, I share a story of an amazing lady who now has 3 adopted daughters. So, I really want to put that forth, that what didn't work for me doesn't mean that that's going to work for you or not work for you.
Yeah.
I've got to sort of find their own journey. So that's what I want to do. I just want to give options to people, things they may not have thought of. And even tonight at the expo, all the businesses there have been so generous. There's so many amazing lucky door prizes that people can win. So, massage vouchers, Reiki treatments, and so many amazing things just to help people get through and have that little bit of downtime and me time as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that can be the first thing to go, really, isn't it? When you're under stress and you're trying to find a solution, you self-care can kind of go by the wayside pretty quickly, I imagine.
Definitely, because you've got so many things to think of. When you're doing, say, IVF, for example, you've got, injections, you're going to your clinic for scans, for blood tests. In our case, I felt like I was going to our clinic every day or every second day when it close to us doing the egg retrieval, because they kept a really close eye on the number of follicles that they were forming. So it was, something that's all your priority. Everything else in your life gets pushed aside. And, and if you're working, which most people are as they're going through IVF, you're trying to keep up that facade at work.
Yeah.
And, everything's all good.
Yeah. That would have been a big challenge, I imagine.
It was definitely, and, initially I didn't tell my manager what I was going through. I would just keep needing to duck out for medical appointments. But in the end, I did tell her at the time what I was going through and she was quite understanding. She was actually quite relieved because she thought I was quite sick because I kept having to go to medical appointments. So
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And it was very hard. I worked in an office with a lot of females and they were all in that age group of, where they're all looking at having families and settling down. So there was a lot of pregnancy announcements and, I was always happy for everyone when they did announce their pregnancy. But once word got around that what we were going through, then everyone, I felt a little bit of pity for me, and that was nothing what I wanted. It was a big reason as well why we packed up and moved to Perth. We just needed to get away from that life.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, was the fresh start what yourself and Ian needed to, I guess, to focus in on things and just resettle over there?
Yeah, 100%. We had this whole new life. We had new jobs. We had a new home. We had new friends that didn't know what we'd been through. So And I love Perth. It's such a beautiful city. We hadn't been there before. I just had this desire in me to move to Perth. It was really quite strange. So, 1 year we just went, right, let's do it. And we sort of got things moving and moved over. It was wonderful. But then after a while, we had that yearning then to keep trying. So that was when we went back we did IVF cycles in Perth as well.
Yeah.
And after that didn't work. And I did have to have a little bit of surgery as well. During that time, we then looked into other options, which is how we decided to go with surrogacy.
Yeah, excellent. And I'd be interested to know, like, was there a particular connection in Perth that that led you to the surrogacy idea, or was there a bit of serendipity, the fact that you were there, that connected you to your eventual children?
Well, the reason we sort of started to look into surrogacy and international surrogacy prior to moving to Perth, we'd actually seen a story on 60 Minutes about two gay guys who had gone to India and had used a surrogate and had a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And it was something that we didn't feel about jumping into and looking into at the time, but it always stayed with us.
Yeah.
And when we were in Perth and IVF didn't work for us again and I had surgery, we then had to go, right, let's look into other options, and started talking about that. So, we feel really indebted to those guys that shared their story that night, because that then, we didn't even know that was possible. So that made us look into that option. So now by me doing what I've done with my story, I'm hoping I can be that person for someone else then.
Yeah, beautiful. That's great. And so it's not only the expo and the book, but you're also taking to the stage. You mentioned going around major cities next year to share your story on stage, which is that's a very exciting new leg of your journey.
Yeah, there's going to be fertility expos in capital cities around the country. They're not ones that I'm actually running. However, I have asked to be to speak at them and to share my story. So the events are listed on my website. I haven't got all the details at the moment because times and everything, but the dates and the locations are on my website under the events. So I will be speaking at those events. And it's just something that I really love to do now. I love to get up and share my story and just talk from the heart and, hopefully reach out and connect. Even if I help one person, then I've done some good.
Yeah, I'm sure you've helped way more than that already, Kellie. So.
I don't know, but, it's nice to know that is what I could be doing. So
absolutely. That's great. And how are the kids involved in this journey for you at all? Do they know what mummy's doing while they're at school?
They do. Last year they sort of, because I did give up my job as well last year to really throw myself into this and to start writing. So that sort of took them a little while to adjust to that. So because I was home all the time, I was picking them up from school every day. So I was quite blessed to be able to do that. And now they understand a lot more this year. They've heard me speak on the radio quite a few times, and they hear their names mentioned. So they think it's quite exciting now. They understand a lot more of what's going on. Also, to see articles in the newspaper with their picture in it, they think that's pretty special as well.
Yeah,
so,
they're feeling like
starting to understand a lot more now what mummy's doing and what mummy's trying to do. In regards to what they know about how they come about, they know some basics. We sort of are tending to tell them little pieces at a time.
Yeah.
And so they do know that they were born in India. They do know that they're in another lady's tummy and not my tummy.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much at the moment all they need to know, that we feel.
Yeah, they're only young still. So
they are very young. Yeah, that's right. And I know when the time is right that we'll sit down with them, and have that full story. But yeah, like you said, they are young. They are only 6. They don't need to know, or they don't know all the ins and outs of everything of how it is to have a baby. So, just for them to know that they couldn't be in my tummy, but, another amazing lady had them in her tummy, and they're okay with that. They're good.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. Okay, excellent. And we will wrap things up here, but I did want to just kind of throw the mic at you and see if there were any words or any messages that you wanted to put out there for any couples, any women who are looking to start a journey to bring a child into their lives, or if they're maybe in some of the dark spaces that you had found yourself in as well. What words would you share with them to help them through?
Yeah, sure. One of the main things, I just listening to you saying that, is it's your journey. You know, do what you feel you need to do. If you need to go down a certain path, or if you need to talk to people about it, or you don't need to talk about it. If you don't want to go to a baby shower, don't go. You know, do what is best for you to get you through that time. At the end of the day, people that matter will understand down the track. You know, we've had friends that, you know, friendships have fallen away because they may not have understood what we were going through at the time. And then when they found out what we did, they were quite disappointed that we didn't share that with them. So, you know, you really need to, but then we have we have amazing friends who, you know, don't care how our babies came along, didn't know until my book came out that they weren't even biologically mine. They obviously must have known something was different, because Bane and Day are now half Indian, so you know, they don't actually look like me, but they didn't know if that was, you know, because of Ian or myself. Some people even thought they were adopted. So, and there's people that just now know the true story and they love them, you know, probably even more than they did before. So my message is to other people, just do what you need to do, look into other options, take a break if you need to. It doesn't mean you're giving up. Sometimes we all need to take a break, connect back to ourselves, connect to our relationships, and to having a life again. And once you've done that, give it everything you've got, because it really is so worth it, and is something that no matter what you've been through and no matter what it has cost you, you'll think it is the best thing you've ever done.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Kellie. Really appreciate you being so open and honest with everyone watching today. It's I really hope that they're pulling away some of these amazing nuggets of knowledge and helping them through their own journeys as well. So thank you so much for coming on today, Kellie.
And thank you so much for having me. And and I appreciate you know, you talking about my book. It is going to be available, well, once this goes out next week, for people to listen to. You know, they can pick up a copy of my book on my website, just kellieharriden.com.
Excellent. Nice. And I will pop a link below so people can click straight through and not have to, you know, make things easy for people. We want to get this out to as many people as we can, because I just know how much of an impact it's going to have. So thank you again for your time, Kellie.
Thank you, Roxanne. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you.